of our today's facilitator, and we'll start the training properly. We are loading. All right, I think we are live now. Loading. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning from every part of the world that you're joining us today. It's another beautiful episode, another beautiful series of our safety webinar enlightenment session via Safety Moment Valiola, when we discuss a lot and lots of health and safety issues. We have discussions surrounding health and safety topics, issues affecting the society, relating to health and safety, and so many more. And today we are having a very interesting and enlightening topic that does not only, or that is not only limited to professionals, but also has its application in our daily life activities, has its application in the area of medicine and what have you. So it's very important that we take this particular training very seriously. We have our erudite scholar in health and safety, our safety mother, Mrs. Fire Williams, and I'll be reading this profile to us. After I read the profile to us, she will take the floor immediately. Thank you all for joining. We appreciate your presence. Mrs. Moran Fire Williams is the Executive Director of Rely Supply Limited, a health and safety company, and also the managing consultant, of Simply Exponential Consult Limited, owner of Exponential Hub, a personal and organizational development company, an international labor organizational certified Start and Improve Your Business Master Trainer with background in health and safety. GEM S3 trained, Women Economic Empowerment, Access to Finance Facilitator, and German Dual Vocational Trainer, certified holder in office administration. She has served as chairperson Lagos Working Committee, Association of Nigerian Women Business Network, in a Center for Private Enterprise, funded project on increasing access to finance among micro and small female entrepreneurs, a fellow of the International Management Consultant Board. She has trained and mentored SMEs and startups in various sectors. She possesses the Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, Working Safely, Certificate of Competence, NEBOSH International General Certificate in Occupational Health and Safety, is trained in ISO 2001. She served as facilitator as AfriLab of Learning Week Series 1 in April 2020, has mentored several startups, including a group of young ladies, some of who were students of the University of Lagos, to defeat other startups, which came from all over Nigeria to win the Angel Arc Social Impact Award 2018, and was also a coach in the AfriLab, AfriUnion, African Governance Architecture Virtual Acceleration Program for selected participants of the Youth Innovation Challenge in Democracy and Governance in Africa, where her two mentees were among the top 5 awardees. She was appointed in the ministerial focal group on the establishment of the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund on the 17th of August 2020, and has over 25 years executive level experience as an entrepreneur spanning business management training and consultancy. She's the director of Partnership Innovation Support Network of Nigeria, as well as council member, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Fire Williams is certified vocational educational trainer with skills in developing competence-based curricula, a World Bank trained business development service provider, and participated in the world. And I welcome to you, Mrs. Fire Williams. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. It is so exciting to be here. Thank you very much, Waliu, for that great introduction. I wish I could just take it to the bank and collect $1 million, you know. It is so exciting to have everyone on this call. I can see that we are in for a good time because of the diversity, people from all over the world. It's so exciting to see Kende, to see Helen. I know you've acknowledged a whole lot of others. And once again, I say welcome to everyone. So I'll be sharing my screen without much ado. Today, we're going to talk about causes of unconsciousness. So, Waliu, could you please check on the waiting room for me to make sure that we have all we need in terms of admitting people. So you can do that while I'll just go on with the lecture. So once again, thank you. And I have no objection to being called Mrs. Williams, really. That's okay. So once again, no problem. So it's about 18 minutes after 3 now. I hope to speak for at least 30, 40 minutes, and then we can throw the floor open for questions. So you can put your questions in the chat room as we go along. Causes of unconsciousness, first aid interventions. That's what we'll be talking about today. Okay, and Waliu has so kindly introduced me. I think the only thing he probably didn't mention is that I am very grateful and privileged to be one of the newly decorated fellows of the Institute of Safety Professionals. That happened just at the Benin conference. And I'm also a presenter of Safety Train on Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM. From the time of the COVID lockdown till now, Wali was talking about being a continuous learner. We all had to learn about COVID, and it was reaching the crisis. So I have participated in a whole lot of webinars, updating ourselves on how to perform first aid in COVID-19 pandemic, how the schools needed to reopen, how hubs needed to reopen. And I was very happy to have been invited to a virtual conference on healthcare management and infrastructure. So that's a little bit about what I've been.
Hello, ma. Hello.
So you would be wondering, what's this dish? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but
please.
It's breaking. Yeah, it's breaking.
Yes,
maybe it's because,
please. Can you hear me?
Maybe it's the video so that we to reduce the bandwidth.
It's breaking.
Yeah, it's breaking. Yes, I think
okay.
It's better now.
Can you? Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better now. It's better now.
Okay, please just all right. So let me know whatever I have to do. I also have a backup. Thank you. So I was just saying that this dish before us is not one of the causes of unconsciousness. To indicate your name, organization, and favorite Nigerian soup. And since we Saudi Arabia and Namibia, I know I am going to countries. So once again, Waliu, we are still in the process of this continuous learning. And I'm really looking forward to reeling out some names from the chat room as soon as I get them in. This session is being recorded. We've been asking people to please mute their microphone. And if you do have tech issues, indicate in the chat room. Even if it's on my side, please give me a little time to activate my plan B. Both the laptop is having a battery backup, and then I have a hot. We are going to keep the show I would appreciate your questions via the chat box, and do fill the evaluation form at the end of the training. Our learning objectives for today are only two. Firstly, at the end of the session, I would like you, the participants, causes of unconsciousness. And then secondly, I need you to be able to describe some of the actions to be taken at such emergencies. You know, Waliu has shared his own personal experience about this kind of scary situation, even in the family, with regards to his wife having to go through this, or even an instance where he was involved. So unconscious factors, and we really need to be aware should happen. I'll put up a disclaimer also upfront, and I'll be saying that first aid is a very important skill. That is, when you say laymen, trained laymen, you need to be trained, you need to be skilled to be able to carry out first aid, but you do not have to be a doctor. So this happens at the scene of an accident, and it's not the same as proper medical attention. So Mr. Waliu, First Aid and Company Limited, after this training, it's not going to because it's not proper medical attention, just what you need to do as a first responder at the scene of an accident. So just before we head, Said, voice breaking, I hope that has been mitigated. Saudi Arabia, Namibia, Ekaiti Etiebet, who I know very well, loves fisherman soup. That's from South in Nigeria. And Kehinde likes ogbono soup. I hope it doesn't end up on your doctor's coats. All right, so Waliu, please, is the response so that I can switch?
Yeah, I don't know from the other side, but it has been breaking from here. But I don't know if it's from my side or from your side. But I want every other person to.
Let me quickly have a response.
Yes, it said it's breaking. Okay. It said it's breaking. Yes, it said it's breaking.
It's breaking, madam. It's breaking.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to change the source of internet quickly. I'm hoping it will be seamless. Just a minute. That's why we always have to have a backup.
Exactly. So the question is, what do we like best? We can see,
just see whether I can quickly change my source of internet. So Waliu, please. Okay. So Waliu, please, if I get disconnected, you watch out for me in the waiting room.
Okay, ma, I will do that.
So I'm going to switch over my internet connection to hopefully a better one.
Okay, ma. Okay, ma. So we are having a question and answer session. I think the question was about what we love eating most, our best delicacy. We've seen a couple of responses. We've seen banga soup, ogbono soup, fisherman soup. God, I'm hearing some new names today. Some new food types today. Ogbono soup. I think I've heard of ogbono before, even though I don't really like it. Banga soup. We have banga soup. We have begiri and ewedu. We have white soup. Trevi Fountain, Nigeria Minister, Mr. Trevi, Mr. Solomon, you're welcome, sir. White soup also. White soup, vegetable soup. Most people are just answering this question. They don't know what bettered that question, what led to that question. I know when our pastor comes in, then you understand why the question was this is related to our discussion for today. Eforiro. Eforiro is good. Well, maybe because I'm Yoruba, you know, there's this argument that Yoruba, we don't have we don't have any stew. We only have pepper, any small thing pepper. Even very soon now, our cake that we used to make, we start putting pepper in our cake. Even our yogurt, they start making it spicy now. Everything is about pepper. Then we have Igbo, our Igbo friends used to tell us that they have the best delicacies, which we want to agree, because I've actually learned about different kind of soup that are not even the same. Numerous types. You be hearing afang, you be hearing white soup, you be hearing abacha. Is that even a soup anyway? I don't even know. But in Yoruba, majorly we only have, banga soup. In Yoruba, we only have ewedu, begiri, eforiro, then egusi and vegetables. I think that's all we want. That's all we like. But our other people, numerous types, and I give it to them. So our pastor will soon join. We are waiting for her. I think there are network issues. Like we said, the training for today is about first aid interventions, and what are those things that lead to unconsciousness. Yes, she's here, and she's joining now. Are you here, ma? I saw her just now. Hello, ma.
Yes, I'm back. Apologies for the delay. I believe we'll have a smooth sail from now on. Let's hope for that. So the Ghanaians were right. All right. So everywhere and every day, we are faced with life-threatening emergencies. They occur all around us. From car accidents, we've had series of collapsed buildings with people injured. Some have lost their lives. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear. Kindly make it F5, full screen, your slides.
Yes, fine. Okay. So, but Waliu, do you want to let me know if there were any other interesting soups? I saw dry fish egusi soup.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Banga soup, eforiro, afang soup, egusi, white soup, vegetable soup, dry fish. I think that is all for now. Yes.
Oh my. It looks like some people were tormenting others by making them hungry.
Yeah,
the way it's been going. All right, let's go on. So every day and everywhere, like I said, we've been faced with life-threatening emergencies. Right now there have been floods in Pakistan. Even in the city of Lagos, we've had people being carried away, so to say, in their vehicles because they insisted in driving through floods. We've had situations where people just slumped, due to one underlying condition or the other, conditions that were not well managed, and unfortunately, we lost them. So these life-threatening emergencies, they do occur virtually on a daily basis. And the question becomes, how do we cope with these life-threatening emergencies? So what exactly is first aid? And why should we give it? First aid really is just that initial attention given to the victim of a sudden illness like asthmatic attack, a sudden illness like epileptic seizure or a cardiac arrest, or the victim of an accident who suffered some trauma, who has had some bleeding or other type of effect on their, the human body. Thank you very much, Kehinde. Everybody says we can hear better now. Thank you. So first aid is given at the site of the accident. At the time the accident occurs, we do not usually recommend that you carry the casualty away from the scene of the accident unless it is unsafe. Unless it may be like in the middle of the road, or you are in danger. And then in that case, you may have to carry the victim away from the scene of the accident. Now, in dealing with emergencies, there are 4 major steps we need to know. The first is that you need to recognize an emergency. You know, you may find everybody at a party dancing booga, I know this song is all over the world. So, come and collect your money, come and wake up and all that. But suddenly, if you find somebody holding his chest tight, having pain radiating from the chest area to an arm, you should begin to suspect that something may be wrong. If there is sudden collapse, I am a member of some of the social clubs like Lagos Country Club, and we've had situations of people collapsing on the tennis court, on the squash court. So if you find a situation of sudden collapse, you must be able to recognize that something is wrong, and then you must take a decision to act. Unfortunately, in our environment, there are many people who are either afraid of taking action, or they find themselves bringing out their phones and they're doing a video. I was there when such and such a thing happened. I was the first to post it on so site. It is really an offense in many countries, and I would like people who are in other countries to let us know about what they call duty of care. Because in many developed countries, if you pass by somebody who is having a challenge and you don't deal with it, you could actually be taken to court and you could be fined, or other such reprimand issued out to you. So you need to decide to act, and then the least you can do is to activate the emergency medical system, that is the EMS, and we'll learn how to call for help. We'll learn about the numbers worldwide. Even in Lagos State, we have some numbers that we can call. And the 4th thing you need to do is to provide care. I tell you, one of the objectives of first aid is even psychosocial support. You know, by merely holding on to the hand of someone who's just coming out of a traumatic situation, being able to console them and reassure and let them know, oh, don't worry, UEFA Championships, we're going to watch it together. It is a very big job that you have to provide care. And these are the 4 major steps to managing an emergency. So what exactly is unconsciousness? It is when a person is unable to respond to people and activities. So this person is being prodded, you are calling out a name, you are shaking the shoulders gently, and this person is unable to respond. That is what we mean by unconsciousness. I don't want to take it into the medical realm, because sometimes the medical doctors amongst us could say, oh, this person is in a coma or something, but we don't need to go deep into medicine. As first aiders, we are laymen. We have our role. We need to take that first step to provide the care and to do what is right. If not, we may compound the situation. And when somebody is unconscious, every minute counts. So we will learn why towards the end of this presentation. So put that aside, put that in mind. Every minute counts whenever there is a case of unconsciousness. So we have a mnemonic here, fish-shaped, and every alphabet in this memory jogger, can be a cause of unconsciousness. And even the doctors will tell you this is not exhaustive. It is not exhaustive. So unconsciousness could be due to fainting, which is temporary. It could be due to imbalance in body heat, stroke, heart attack, shock, head injuries, anaphylactic shock. poisoning, epileptic fit or seizures, diabetic emergencies, and even drowning. All these are causes of unconsciousness. So how do you recognize somebody who has fainted? You find out, that this person is temporarily unable to respond to you, to answer their name. I would like to give a quick personal example. I was in one of the beverage production companies. I'd gone to market a range of first aid boxes. And the nurse was telling me that, oh, no, she doesn't need the box right now. She's always in the clinic. If anybody needs any care, they come to her. So as she was seeing me off through the materials warehouse, she fainted. And I could recognize, because this was sudden collapse, so I loosened her nurse's belt, because you have to loosen all tight clothing. And I lifted up her chin and put back her head to make the airway open. And she just said, where am I? Where am I? So at the same time, I had to take charge. So I told everybody to stop the forklift operations. I got one of the operatives to call the ambulance, and she was taken to hospital. Because sometimes, many a times we should realize that first aid is emergency care only. There may be an underlying condition and people need further attention. So I caused her to be taken to the hospital, and the clinic was empty. So in fact, that convinced her that designated first aiders needed to be trained, and she also needed to have a first aid box around in various parts of the facility. So that is all about recognizing what is going on. And then in terms of treatment, I raised her legs. I know she was wearing a dress. Whenever you have situations like this, just as what happened with Eriksson, the Danish footballer, where the captain was to conduct some CPR, but he created a wall, a human wall around Eriksson. So you need to give people their privacy, and you need to commence treatment. So I do hope we are following. Another issue that could lead to unconsciousness and is life-threatening is imbalance in body heat. We had this wave, heat wave, all over the UK and in some other countries. Many of us have relatives in the UK who could not believe that the temperatures exceeded 40 degrees centigrade. Some people, even adults, were really messing up. Many of them were undressed. Some were in fountains, were sitting in the fountain at Trafalgar Square, and so on and so forth. And a lot of this has been due to climate change. So, and again, I'll mention, sadly too, the floods in Pakistan. We pray that God would be with everywhere where floods are going on. Even in Nigeria, we have floods in Jigawa. We have floods in various places, including Lagos. Now, so there's been a lot due to climate change, either excessive heat or excessive water. And unconsciousness can be the result of this heat stroke and some other conditions. I'll just check the chat box. Okay, yes, thank you, Waliu. You're saying amen to God being with people who are experiencing this excessive, heat due to climate change, or the onset of thunderstorms also due to climate change. So this is another source of unconsciousness. And now we come to stroke. So you can ask yourself, how big is the problem? I must tell you, these statistics are very old. I am sure statistics have gone higher because we are all in this era of economic crisis. The economic crisis has been worldwide, ever since the collapse of the Lehman Brothers and the Bank of Americas and the stock market in Nigeria. And now we have headline inflation exceeding 20.5%. We have costs rising daily, foodstuffs, services, It's on and on and on. And these are avenues of stress. And some people have been coming down with stroke. So what's it all about? Stroke is about bleeding in the brain, where you have bleeding into the brain. They call this hemorrhage, and it results in a confused mental state. Many people are unable to speak properly. You notice signs of weakness, dribbling from the mouth, loss of movement, inability to raise your arm. If you are facing and looking at this person, you could see unequal pupils. And let's go on. There is what we call the fast check. First, look at the face. Is the face drooping to one side? Usually, the body, if you divide the body, if you put a line through your forehead and through your nose, the body is divided into two equal halves. So it's like a mirror image. The left should be the same as the right. You have two arms, you have two legs, you just divide the body, have an imaginary line. But if you find the face drooping to one side, that may be a sign of stroke. If you ask the person to raise both arms and one appears to be weak, another sign. If the speech is slurred, the third sign. And then all this tell you it is time to make a call for the emergency services. We come on now to heart attack. So how do you recognize heart attack? At this point in time, I would like some interaction. Please post in the chat room any signs and symptoms of heart attack. Heart attack is much more prevalent, and the incidence is higher than you can imagine. So this could happen on a football field, along the road, at an airport, anywhere, at a party. If you know any of the signs and symptoms of heart attack, please post into the chat room. I want to make this a bit interactive at this point. So I have some responses. Severe chest pain, awesome. Radiating from the left side of the chest towards the arm, restlessness, very correct. Gasping for breath, sudden chest pain, sudden collapse, all these are symptoms, signs and symptoms of heart attack. Fanuel says sharp pain, sudden sharp pain. Doisola says difficulty in breathing. All these are correct. Heavy heartbeat, as if there are palpitations. Engineer Dansaki, thank you for that. So all these are signs of heart attack. So what is the treatment? The treatment is for us to put the casualty in a half-sitting position. Okay, so you can see that stick figure on the right-hand side. You can have the person's head up, back against the wall, or you can actually kneel behind this person if there's no wall around. You become the first aider, and that is why it's important to learn first aid skills, to attend first aid training, so that you can know the skills you require to help somebody who is having a heart attack. You need to call for help immediately. While help is on the way, give 1 tablet of aspirin. And here we are talking of a 300 milligram aspirin, okay? We're not talking about the cardioprotective aspirin, which is 75 milligrams. Thank you, Jeriah Lucas. You say sometimes the pain gradually increases. Olugbenga Fagbemi says sudden change in the rate of heartbeats. Yes, because you could have arrhythmias and so on. Engineer Dansaki says, I witnessed this heavy heartbeat. He was quickly given oxygen, which helped to slow down the heartbeat of the worker. There could be more to it, because if you are able to get the person to medical facility, they may need to give something that will lyse the blood clots, because heart attack is usually due to like the plumbing of the heart, where you have a clot in one of the vessels. And so aspirin helps you to thin out a clot as well. And you can ask this person whether they have their medication. And I tell you, this is scary. We've had pilots and co-pilots have a heart attack while flying a plane. Yes, this has happened. So be prepared to resuscitate, get an automated external defibrillator, which we call an AED, if available. You need to monitor, and you monitor by placing 2 fingers on the carotid artery, that is by the Adam's apple towards the left and right of the throat. You find an Adam's apple, and you must check whether you can still find that referred heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. Once the heartbeat stops, if the heart is no longer beating and this person is no longer breathing, then you have to start what we call cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Ilechukwu says, chest pain that may feel like pressure, like tightening of the chest. You are very correct, Ilechukwu Lawrence. Squeezing or aching. So with all these contributions, I do hope we can sufficiently recognize a heart attack. And now we go on to shock. And when we say shock, people's mind immediately goes to an electric shock. But I'm not talking about an electric shock now. Yes, it is also serious and actually could be a source of unconsciousness. But the kind of shock I'm talking about here could be due to extreme bad news, and it could also be due to loss of blood. So when you have somebody who's gone through something like a gunshot wound, or who has severe bleeding, you need to elevate the victim's feet. And what this does is that it helps blood flow, the volume of blood that is available to flow back to the brain, because the brain needs to be oxygenated, and blood is the vehicle for conveying oxygen and nutrients to all parts of the body. And if the brain is not oxygenated for up to 6 minutes, there could set in an irreversible brain damage. Another thing that happens to somebody in this situation is that they start feeling very cold. So you need to use a blanket to keep him or her warm. In some first aid boxes, you find a folded aluminum blanket. This is where you use that aluminum blanket to keep the victim warm, because you must. This is part of how you treat for shock. Another thing is that in case of shock, you could find the patient telling you, I'm thirsty, or gasping, or restless, because bleeding could be internal. It could be due to internal injuries. I hope someone is following me. If you're following me, just put something in the chat room to say, yes, we are with you. I am with you, I'm following. Because here we are discussing serious life-threatening situations that may snuff out a life. And if we are able to learn 1 or 2 things today, we may be able to save the situation and reverse the trend of needless deaths due to causes of unconsciousness. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you following me, and we'll now go on to learn some more. Now, head injuries. You find here a couple of casualties. You have emergency medical workers. You could have firemen at the scene conducting a triage. They're trying to find out the most critically injured victims in this scene. This could be the scene of a train crash. It could be an airplane crash. It could be anywhere. So you must look out for breathing. Breathing is essential. Like we said before, without breathing, the brain is not oxygenated and people are not able to survive. So Infinix Hot 11, you can rename yourself. Thank you for following. Aminu Shuaibu, thank you for following. Now, when it comes to head injuries, please, this is not the time to go into your biology class or say you are a science student. You know that song, I want science students, you don't want to say that. You want to ensure that you use a triangular bandage to bandage the head and stabilize the victim and transport this victim to hospital. Because a head injury could cause some shaking, some distortion which leads to unconsciousness. Another cause of unconsciousness is anaphylactic shock. Have you ever witnessed a situation whereby somebody took crayfish or smelt oranges or was given eggs? I have an auntie who is allergic to eggs. Once you give her a food that contains eggs, it just throws her off. She becomes completely restless. You find blotches of red all over her face. And I tell you, do you know that this can lead to narrowing of air passage? It can lead to narrowing of air passages. You can see the swelling of the lips. We would like to remind us all to please keep muted so that we can enjoy the lecture. So there are a lot of things that happen when there's this acute allergic reaction, which we call anaphylaxis. Now, this could occur due to a bee sting. I have witnessed somebody being bitten by a scorpion and having this kind of reaction. It could also occur from snake bites. Okay, so these are areas that could occur, and cause anaphylactic shock. Okay, so you must be very, very aware of what to do. And what do you do in anaphylactic shock? Try to identify the causative agent if you can, but do not waste time. If available, injector medication. The doctors amongst us would understand what I'm talking about, but I don't want to give names because I don't want people looking for this medication on any counter. This is prescription only medication. So if you have been diagnosed as someone who could have an anaphylactic reaction, then there's a recommendation of an auto-injector medication that is being injected into a fleshy part of the body. So if you happen to be the bystander and the first responder and somebody is going through this, ask if they have their medication and expose the fleshy part of the upper arm or the thigh and remove the cap and inject. But I tell you, this is taught in a first aid class. You don't want to do the wrong thing. Let me just check the chat room. Medications like penicillin could cause this. You're very, very correct. Thank you, Dr. Kehinde Umezudike. You're very correct. And for a drug like penicillin, if you are in a hospital room and you're being told that, madam or sir, we are going to, you have a prescription of penicillin, ask them, are they going to do a test first? Because it's much, much better for a test to be done than for you to receive an entire dose and then you come down with anaphylactic shock. So, and if you are reacting to penicillin, please ask for your case notes. You know, right now, we no longer have many physical patients' case records. So ask them to put it on the system that you are allergic to penicillin or any other thing you are allergic to. It's really, really very important. Some people are allergic to sulfur-containing drugs. Yes, Jeriah Lucas, I am familiar with this, but I wanted to avoid us, letting people self-medicate because it is a prescription-only medicine. So we would like anyone who has ever experienced an allergic reaction to see a doctor and have this properly prescribed for them. So let's go on. We are learning so much about anaphylaxis, and you must reassure the patient, make the patient comfortable and monitor. In all the cases of unconsciousness we have mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, it could result in cardiac arrest, in which case you need to conduct cardiopulmonary resuscitation or CPR. So you must continue to monitor the patient, and if this patient is no longer breathing, you start the CPR. Now we come to poisoning. One thing that stood out for me in this case of poisoning, and I would like anybody to let me know if they remember the unfortunate case of the Russian opposition leader who was poisoned along with his daughter, with some kind of nerve gas that was just placed on the handle of the door of an apartment. So I'm really wondering, how poisons can be absorbed through the skin, they can be inhaled, they can be ingested, and it's really very serious. If anybody remembers that particular case, because it was global, it went viral, and there was so much outcry. It was so much outcry about this poisoning of the Russian opposition leader, his daughter. You remember they nearly lost their lives. It created a life-threatening emergency for both the Russian opposition leader and his daughter. In this environment, you've had a lot of people who've been under severe mental stress with regards to finances, stress with regards to relationships. Some have tried to end it all by taking sniper, rat poison, and so on and so forth. And we've had children who've been given access to drugs they should never take. I had a young cousin who virtually ingested a whole bottle of a pink-coated drug because she felt it was candy. So I would always suggest that at home, mothers and fathers on this call, you must have a first aid kit, because another use of a first aid box is that you can use a first aid box to keep drugs out of the reach of children. Engineer Dan Saki, thank you for reminding us. They were rushed to Germany for treatment. In fact, some people were suggesting, why don't they go back to their country of origin? And the whole world went, I beg your pardon. They are going to be at risk. So they were taken to a neutral country. And of course, today, we are very grateful that he is back on his feet and his daughter. But you can see how profound this situation of poisoning is. Some people are also suffering from post-traumatic disorder stress, and a lot of people want to end it all. So you need to watch out for the signs of depression, signs of people who are unnecessarily aggressive or withdrawn or not, moving along with their peers anymore. A lot of things can trigger an incident of poisoning. Epilepsy. There could be minor seizures known as absent seizures or petit mal epilepsy. And the signs include the twitching. Some of the people who have been diagnosed with epilepsy, they actually have this aura, and we'll come across that, particularly for major episodes. They have the premonition that they may have a seizure. There could be some lip smacking. There could be jerking of an individual limb, and the person may appear to be daydreaming. Or I tell you, this person could just have a sudden collapse. I was on the queue to vote in the last elections in Nigeria. I was talking to this young man, looking really sporty, in his shorts, clutching his voter's card, and while we were discussing, he collapsed and had a seizure. So seizures can be very, very scary, just like any other cause of unconsciousness. So we need to know what to do. Thank you very much, Owunari West. Thank you, Ilechuku, for giving us commentary in the chat room. We are all learning, and I do hope that by the end of this lecture, we'll know some of the things to do whenever whether we encounter sources of unconsciousness. I do hope Helen is still with us. Helen is one of my team members, and I'm so excited today. So when it comes to major seizures, usually it's due to a disturbance in the brain. Possible signs include the aura I told you about. And after that aura, where people just think, oh, I may be coming up with an attack. I may be coming up. They could actually tell you there's a tonic face, you know, where there's some twitching. There's a clonic face. There could be dilation of the eyes. Ladies and gentlemen on this call, there is no need to be afraid. Now that we are going through these signs, recognize them. Decide to act. Activate the emergency medical service. Usually, a major seizure goes through this pattern. And now let's go on to treatment. Try to protect the casualty from danger. I wonder if there's any member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria on this call. We had an employee who had this challenge, and we were at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research about to set up a conference one day, and you know, we had, at that time, we had bottles of these beverages, you know, stacked in, you know, towers, so to say. We have towers, you know, green, brown, and the orange flavored. And this particular staff of ours, he had sudden collapse, and he started rolling into these towers of bottled beverages. In fact, that day I became a professional bottle packer. I could add that certification to my pharmacy because we had to do everything to prevent him from getting into danger while he was convulsing. And after some time, the convulsing subsided, but he wanted to get up and run. He was particularly embarrassed, but we reassured him. We said, no, we are here for you. Don't worry. We're going to send you home. We had to call a cab. There was no Uber at that time. And we asked him, what about your medication? He said he left the medication at home. In fact, one had finished. I said, in a Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria technical arm, your medication finished. You have pharmacists all around you, and you didn't ask for more. You know, so we had to assist him and get him on the road to recovery. Now, let me just go into the chat room briefly. Somebody is talking about chemicals. Very, very, very interesting. In fact, I take this in my occupational health and safety course, and I think the secretary to the Lagos State branch of Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria is also on this call, Mr. Lucky Onogoria. You know, so we talk about chemicals. Chemicals are very, very, they could be hazardous. You know, even transportation of chemicals is hazardous. If they get into the body, it depends on the nature of that chemical. How toxic it is, the level of toxicity. It depends on the concentration. It depends on even the level of exposure. So you could have injection of the chemical through a puncture in the skin or through a cut, ingestion, inhalation, absorption. You are really, really very correct. Thank you for giving us this expose. Esemoge Christian. Thank you very much, Iboro Umana. And Jeriah Lucas, I'm beginning to see some questions. We'll take the questions towards the end of the presentation. Waliu, please take note of the questions. You help me to go through them at the end of the presentation. Now we come to diabetic emergencies. Ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine how many people are living with diabetes? In Nigeria, in the world, somebody should please Google the statistics and drop it in the chat room. Google the statistics of people living with diabetes. We've had people living with diabetes for 20 years. Please, diabetes is not a death sentence. We are learning about this because there could be some problems of extremely low blood sugar or extremely high blood sugar or even other diabetic emergencies. Now, I must tell you, out of these two, which is the most critical? I would like somebody to answer that question in the chat room. Which is most critical? Hypoglycemia, which is extremely low blood sugar, or hyperglycemia? Adekule Ajibulu, thank you for giving us that response. Hypoglycemia is critical and can easily lead to death. Koda, thank you. And somebody has told us, Koda Waliu, you've helped me to check that statistics. 37.3 million people in America alone. 1 in 2 people in the world that have undiagnosed diabetes. Please, ladies and gentlemen, do you know what that means? When you have undiagnosed diabetes, some people are a walking casualty. That's what it means. Because if the blood sugar goes really high, it could result in a diabetic coma. So there's something called ketoacidosis. And there are ways you can detect. For hypoglycemia, extreme lethargia, somebody is weak, unable to function, this and that, restless, thirsty, and all that. For hyperglycemia, there is a characteristic smell. For those of us in Nigeria, we have this joke on the street about sapele water, which is like somebody who's been taking some alcohol. So that aromatic smell from the breath of someone taking alcohol is an indicator of hyperglycemia. And I hope we're together. If we are together, say together we are. Let's see together we are in the chat room. If you're gaining something and we are together, I want to hear together we are. Helena Malongi says 422 million people worldwide have diabetes. Now, in a place like the UK, there's Diabetes UK. They have an agency for diabetes. So Helena, you see why we have an agency in the UK, for diabetes. And this is because it is such a common problem. The issue of testing, the issue of using, drugs that can bring down the blood sugar level, the issue of having first aiders and first responders and assistants who can help determine and do what is necessary in a case of diabetic emergency is so important. Sadly, and we are coming to the home stretch, many people die in situations where basic life support and CPR could have saved them. This is food for thought. Many people die in situations where basic life support and cardiopulmonary resuscitation could have saved them. This is so important. And we have the solution. We have the solution right here at our fingertips. So I'll be sharing the solution with you. If you are, please, can we make sure we are muted? While you please mute everyone again. I'll just take a few comments because I believe we're all learning. There is an opportunity to learn on both sides of the divide, either the facilitator or even the participants. Engineer Dansaki Daniel just told us that regarding chemical safety, it's important to expose the workers handling these hazardous chemicals to the MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheet, so that they will be aware of the, what we call the antidotes, the first aid measures, the remedial measures, control measures, whenever there is chemical poisoning. Engineer Dansaki, I cannot agree with you more. It is unfortunate that administrative procedures, safe systems of work, job hazard analysis, and so many other great administrative procedures which could have helped to reduce casualties, they are not put into place. The use of the MSDS is a very important administrative procedure. It goes along with safety training, safety awareness, just as we are having here today. So the solution to this is basic life support and practical first aid skills training. Waliu, I just went off that because I want to put in the evaluation form. I don't want to wait till the end, to have to put in the evaluation form. So I'm going to get the link and let people know how they can book for first aid trainings. All that is going to be in the chat room very soon so that people know what to do. So, okay, so it's now safety data sheet. Thank you very much. Like I did say, there's an opportunity to learn. So that was 2015 with an update. And I guess that some of the ISO guidelines, the occupational health and safety management systems would have made us aware of this. So once again, can we have you muted, Mr. Raphael? Can you please mute everybody? Thank you. Okay.
Kindly unmute, ma. You can unmute, ma. I've muted everyone.
Okay, great. So we are still talking about first aid skills, what to do in an emergency. One thing you have to ensure is that the casualty is able to breathe. And you can do this if you first check for response. It's important. In a place like the ports or other huge organizations, you have some people malingering who could just be lying down sleeping. So you just don't go to a casualty and just say, oh, this is a casualty, let me start pumping the chest. No, you must check for response, call the name, shake the shoulders. Are you okay? If the person is unable to respond, you open the airway by pressing down the forehead, using 2 fingers to do a chin lift. But remember, in COVID-19 times, you have to use your gloves. You have to use your face mask. Even the casualty, you drape a cloth over the mouth of the casualty. Don't forget COVID-19 protocols. COVID is still with us. We are learning to live with COVID. That is why the world has been able to move on. Check for breathing. Look for rising and falling of the chest. You cannot move too close to listen, but if possible, you can feel the back of your palm against the nostrils of the casualty. If the casualty is not breathing and is an adult, you must call for help. And while help is on the way, you can buy time with chest compressions. So first aid must be administered in what we call the first 4 golden minutes of an accident. These 4 minutes are crucial. Incidents have tackled within this period have resulted in a more favorable outcome. The human brain, as I previously told you, can only last for about 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. So you need to carry out first aid on time. You need to be smart. You need to be swift. You need to be trained. Now, Bright Meyer says it's key to create awareness and refreshers for employees on the latent and irreversible effects of chemical exposure as well. Thank you so much, Bright Meyer. You know, the effects of the Chernobyl radioactive disaster, they are still with us today. Do you agree? Let me see that in the chat room if you agree. In India, in Bhopal, we had release of methyl isocyanate gas, and some people are still suffering, you know, reproductive challenges due to some of this chemical exposure. Let me go back to the chat room. You know, so all over the world, Christian, thank you for agreeing with me. Yes, the effects of these chemicals can be irreversible at times. So Olugbenga Fagbemi, it looks like you have a question. Waliu, please, you'll be calling out these questions as we get to the home stretch in a minute. Now, look at this graph. If you have not believed me before now, this is a moment of truth. Recovery rate can be almost 100% if you intervene within the first minute of an unconscious situation of a life-threatening emergency. After 4 minutes, what goes on? It tapers off to almost 0. After 10 minutes, I am not sure you will find that person in the same condition. Many people suffer brain damage. Sayed Naki Hassan Zaidi, sorry to hear about this. You said your wife had a jerking seizure after years. And this time, the pattern is changed, the body is shaking, she could be stiff, then unconscious with dizziness, with vomiting. You didn't get a good opinion from the doctor. You need to seek a physician. And I would suggest you search for neurologists, a neurologist. And if we have doctors on the call, you can give us other specialty areas who could help our brother, Said Naki Hassan, because obviously they need to get a proper diagnosis so that we can get some help for his wife. So you need to learn cardiopulmonary resuscitation using the mannequin. It's not something you can practice on a human being. The picture to my left is actually a GIF, and you see the pumping of the chest, people in our class using a face shield to conduct artificial ventilations, you know, and this was pre-COVID. Right now, in times of COVID, we are recommending hands-only CPR, but I must tell you, CPR consists of two procedures, the chest compressions, which are 30, and the two artificial ventilations. And when you have them in conjunction, is most effective. It is most effective when you have both the CPR as well as the artificial ventilations. Thank you, Aminu. I really appreciate you. Kende, she's Dr. Kende Umezudike, and she's saying that the neurologist should come first. Yes, Said Naki, you need to go into the database of doctors and see whether you can find any neurologist who has this clinic. Yes, Christopher Inyang says the neuro is the best to go. So you can do that as a follow-up, and I'm happy we're able to help our brother on this call. So I'll just see, Waliu, I'm going to see if I can share my sound and get this. In fact, I had it up. Already. Please tell me if you can hear this.
It's not clear. You can't hear the sound.
Okay. Okay, let me try to share my sound. Just a minute. You know, we are all getting used to Zoom. Let me see, share sound. I got it, guys. So I'm going to start again.
How to perform hands-only CPR. Cardiac emergencies can happen anywhere. Be prepared with a simple technique known as hands-only CPR. You can learn it in minutes, it's easy to remember, and
Are you there, man?
whenever possible, use disposable.
Very good, very good. You can start again.
Okay.
Yeah.
How to perform hands-only CPR. Cardiac emergencies can happen anywhere. Be prepared with a simple technique known as hands-only CPR. You can learn it in minutes, it's easy to remember, and it can help save a life. You will need the willingness to act and a few simple skills. Whenever possible, use disposable gloves when providing emergency care. Step 1. If you see someone suddenly collapse, check the scene for safety and then see if the person responds to you by tapping them on the shoulder and shouting, "Are you okay?" Step 2. Briefly look for breathing. Step 3. If they don't respond, call or send someone to call 911 or the local emergency number right away. Step 4. If the person is not breathing or is gasping, prepare to give chest compressions. Kneel beside them and put the heel of one hand on the center of their chest. Place your other hand over that hand, lacing your fingers together. Position your shoulders directly over your hands, keeping your arms straight and your fingers off the chest. Step 5. Push hard and fast, at least 2 inches, then let the chest rise completely before pressing down again. Don't take your hands off the chest, just your weight. Step 6. Keep going. Do not stop compressions until the person shows an obvious sign of life like breathing. the scene becomes unsafe, an automated external defibrillator or AED is ready, you're too exhausted to continue, or a trained responder takes over. Step 7. Get training and encourage others to do so.
All right, so get training and encourage others to do so. You have seen the steps to, just a minute. Okay, I hope you can still hear me and that you can see the screen.
Loud and clear, ma. We can hear you. You can see the screen.
Loud and clear.
Awesome. So you've gone through the steps to conducting CPR, and I tell you, it's not just what you watch, but you need to practice. You need to get bookings for, sorry, some people are muted, please. Can we please mute ourselves? Thank you. So there is a different protocol for child CPR. In child CPR, you use 1 or 2 hands, depending on how heavy the child is. All right, in infant CPR, you're using 2 fingers, so there's a lot to learn when it comes to saving lives. And right, again, we're just at the tail end of this presentation. And I need to remind you, if you are in an emergency situation, you must be able to call for help. 112 is the number to use nationwide. And in fact, that is a GSM emergency number. So you can, I'm sure it can be used in other countries. In Lagos State, you can dial 767. When you call, you must be able to give a landmark. Don't panic, be calm, okay? Relate the emergency. If you call Lagos State, I have called several times and they ask you, what is the nature of your emergency? Whether it's someone drowning or a collapsed building or a fire, just mention what the emergency is. Give an address. Don't drop the phone first. Be the last to drop the phone. Let the emergency responder drop first, because they may have more questions for you, and you are the last person at the scene of the accident. They may ask for your number. They may ask you what is going on. They may give you some tele-guidance on, oh, this is what to do. This is the first aid technique you can carry out, and so on. So it's very important to learn how to call for help in an emergency. So ladies and gentlemen, what is next? Book for our full online or on-site training. So the number to call will be dropped in the chat room again, and here it is on your screen. We have emails, and if you are able to fill the evaluation form, you can provide us with your contact details so that we give you more information. Rely Supply Limited has been providing health and safety products, certified participatory, high-impact training solutions using scenario setting, practical demonstrations, role plays, and so on. We've been doing this for 30 years. We've served over 2,000 people in some of the big brands, including Nestle, De Waterman College, Nigerite, Owando, Aero Contractors, Dansol School, Dangote Sugar, and so on and so forth. To book your trainings, you can contact us. I'll be leaving this on the screen for a while. You may wish to take a picture, but I would just like you to please evaluate the session. I'll drop the evaluation link and my contact details in the chat room once again. It's been so wonderful having you on this webinar. Thank you once again, Waliu, for inviting me to meet all these people from all over the world. And now I'll be taking about 3 questions before we call it a day. Thank you very much, and I'm ready to take your questions.
Thank you very much, Ma. We really appreciate you. That was well detailed and well understanding. So quickly, because of time, we'll go straight up to the question and answer session. If you have any question, please kindly raise your hand. I will try to scroll through the chat section so that we can check for questions and from there, we'll go to the end of the training. So can you raise your hand while we'll go through the questions on the chat section? Please just raise up your hand. We'll call you while we scroll through, like I said. Thank you very much. So we have so many comments here based on the training process, and there are so many comments on the training section. And the first question, okay, there was a comment by Mr. Christian: chemicals get into the body system either by the following means. Okay. So now the first question is, why do people with epilepsy history get the epilepsy episode triggered by them staring at fire or water? That is a question, man.
If I may just answer that sounds like a myth. Staring at fire or water. There are some things that could trigger an epileptic seizure. It could be a smell. It could be a condition like extreme heat and the person is uncomfortable. But just by looking at fire or water, I must say I don't really, would not really subscribe to that as being a trigger. Some things are passed down as old wives' tales and myths, and they just go from generation to generation. So we use these kind of webinars and sensitization lectures to correct some of the, long-term impressions, the wrong impressions people have gained over the years. So once again, we are not here to really look into medical aspects of things or just people's perception. If I stare into water, if I stare into fire, no. We are more concerned in this particular presentation on first aid measures, the techniques that can help you overcome challenges due to unconsciousness. And you need to learn about recognition, about deciding to act, about activating the EMS and helping the situation, giving treatments. Those are the important things. We have Dansaki Daniel's hand raised. Waliu, please recognize him.
We'll call him now. We want to address the questions on the chat section, then we'll call him to ask his question. Okay. So the next one says, Madam, you talked about the duty of care in other countries or so. Madam, you talk about the duty of care in other countries or so. How safe or risky can giving first aid treatment or assistance be during an emergency, considering the fact that the medical status of a victim is not fully known?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. So we talk about prevention of cross-infection in first aid. Even you may have a condition that may infect our casualty. Please take note of that. And the casualty may have an infection or a condition that may affect you. So we want to prevent cross-infection by all means. So we talk about wearing of gloves, using of face masks, and then immediately after giving first aid care, we talk about you even making a report. You may need to be isolated. You need to wash your hands. We talk about proper disposal of aprons, masks, gloves, and every other personal protective equipment. Another thing I want you to be very aware of is that you must not come in contact with people's body fluid. And I'm not only talking about saliva. It could be semen, it could be vomitus, it could be blood. Make sure you don't come in contact with the casualties' body fluid as much as possible. Use universal precautions kits and maintain universal precautions procedure in all your first aid. And these are the things we teach in class. Thank you.
All right, we have so many comments. Thank you, wonderful presentation. This is mind-blowing. Thank you, Ma, and the likes. Thanks, Sandra, and everyone. Okay, so then this is very interesting, educative, and interactive seminar. Well done, Mrs. Pa, your Williams, and the host and the audience. Okay, now this well delivered section. We're having so many feedback, wonderful training, wonderful presentation, well delivered. Oh yeah, and I have a question. How do someone manage high blood pressure person quickly? How does someone manage high blood pressure person? And
Thank
you
you.
also answer that with someone who has hypoglycemic, because I'm a victim of that also.
All right. Thank you, Waliu. I'm sorry to hear about that, but I know that with a lot of awareness and education, you've been able to manage, the condition. So, with regards to high blood pressure, there are a lot of things out there right now, like lifestyle changes. Diet is key. It's the number one thing we need to look at when we're trying to manage high blood pressure. Diets that are rich in cholesterol should be avoided. Red meats should be avoided. You should have your plate of food looking like a rainbow, having some greens, something purple, something orange like carrots, having salads, in your food. You must try to manage your weight, because obesity is like a precursor. It's like a lubricant. You see, once people are obese, by looking at body mass index, if you are beyond your recommended body mass index, you find out that obesity sets in. And then with obesity, it's like a channel, a funnel for things like high blood pressure, like stroke, and other non-communicable diseases. And I know Dr. Kende, if she's still around, she probably will agree with me. Obesity is a very, it's something we need to try and avoid at all costs. So coming up with mild exercise, 30 minutes, 3 times a week, that is what WHO recommends. I tell you, exercise is better than medicine. Waliu, if I may, let me quickly give my personal experience here, which is my story, before I come to your own personal experience on hypoglycemia. No, at the time that we had this stock market meltdown in Nigeria, I had just saved a sum that I felt would help me serve as collateral for my business, because I was trying to access finance to do various LPO contracts and things like that in my business. I told you I've been in business for 30 years and now I teach business management. So I had just saved some money in the stock market, because the last time I wanted to borrow money, I had to go and bring a parent. My parent was over 75 years. I had to bring them into the urban center to start taking their acceptance of using their stock and all that. And I felt I couldn't take my parents through this kind of thing again. So I wanted to save my own money and I put it in the stock market. As the market was crashing, my blood pressure was going up. And I just happened to be a pharmacist. I don't love taking drugs. So I decided that I was going to use exercise to bring down the blood pressure. I engaged a personal trainer. I was training twice a week. My blood pressure was borderline 139/90. You have systolic and diastolic. The one at the top, the systolic 139, the diastolic is even more dangerous at 90. Very bad. And I was in trouble. So what I did was that I was going through this exercise religiously. But one day I was in a hurry. So I tripped on the staircase and broke my tibia. That is a bone in the foot. And I had to be taken to the hospital. So do you want the good news or the bad news? Suffice to say, the good news was that my blood pressure had gone down to 120/70, but I was out of action for 12 weeks. But the good part of the story, because it ended well, was that while my leg was in a cast, I was able to work on my website and perform something called search engine optimization. Because as an entrepreneur, you are really a jack of all trades. You have to learn a bit about virtually everything. So with search engine optimization, I was found by a tier 1 bank and given yet another contract that helped me to save the money I had lost. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's always good to be positive. Look on the bright side of things. This would also help to overcome the stress that is associated with people who have, who go into having high blood pressure. I would like to welcome General Shino Gubi to the call. I think he just came in. It's good to have you here, sir. I guess there's also a part of the question on hypoglycemia. How can it be managed? Usually, when somebody has extreme low blood sugar like that, you just give a lump of sugar or a soda drink as a first aider. Please remember, we are talking about first aid techniques. And we have said that first aid is not a definitive treatment. It is not the end. You need to take, this person needs to seek further medical attention. But I have been in a visa office once, and one of the nationals of that particular country just came in and said, I need a soda. She was diabetic, and she could feel that she was having low blood sugar, and they quickly rushed to get her a sugar-containing fizzy drink, and she was okay. But I would still recommend that such a patient should go on and see the doctor. So that is how hypoglycemia can be managed. Can the sugar needed in the body be gotten from everyday carbohydrates? Yes, but sometimes there is, you see, in diabetes, it's a little bit complicated. We may not be able to address everything on this call. Remember, diabetes is about the secretion of insulin. Insulin is a very important ingredient or substance which helps you to regulate, production of sugar, release of sugar, conversion of carbohydrates into sugar within the body. So if you are suffering from diabetes, it means that regulatory mechanism has some kind of malfunction, and therefore you may need extraneous insulin administered to you, either insulin injection or you are taking drugs to bring down your blood sugar. So like I said, I don't want this to turn into a medical call. We are here for first aid techniques. Dr. Kende, I agree with you. We should avoid eating late dinner. It's the greatest cause of obesity. And that is it. For hyperglycemia, please take the person to hospital. We've told you about the characteristic smell that is like liquor, that is alcoholic. Once you perceive that, please make sure that casualty is taken to hospital. So Waliu, over to you. We have just 2 minutes left. We've overshot our time.
Okay. So I'll call on, we'll go to those who raise their hand. Engineer Saiki, please kindly unmute and ask your question.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone on this call. I believe you can all hear me.
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Regarding the control measures that was spoken, it's about on when somebody have a heart attack. And you said
Yes.
we can administer aspirin. So as a safety officer, because I work as an health and safety personnel, so is it advisable for us to administer drugs to casualty? That's my first question. And question number two, I would love to share my experience on one fatality case I had. And so I just want to know, what we could have done better. Am I permitted to share it?
Very briefly, please.
Please, can you make it very brief because of
Very
time?
brief.
Okay, yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
brief. Okay. So around closing, so I just found out that worker slumped on the floor, and he was rushed to the plant clinic. So getting to the plant clinic, we check, and the occupational nurse checked the pulse, and he said he could not find any pulse, and he said I should quickly take the person to the hospital. I was in my office planning to go home, so where I saw noise on the factory floor, so I quickly ran down, saw the guy in the clinic, and then take him to the company ambulance, and begin to do CPR. So till I took the person to the company veterinary hospital. So after a while, my boss called me. He said the nurse said I should come. So the doctor said I should come inside, and then I was told that the guy is dead. So when we review the CCTV, we just find the guy walking normally, hale and hearty. Nothing is wrong. He just slumped on the floor. So, and workers on the floor, firstly, we were like looking at him for a few seconds, and then he was quickly poured water upon, and he was taken to the company's plant clinic in-house. So I just said, okay, based on this scenario, so what we could have done better.
Thank you.
To
Thank you.
Situation. That's all.
Thank you very much. So you had two questions. Quickly, let's start with the first one. Is it safe to administer drugs as a safety officer? Please, we are not recommending a blanket administer drugs situation. No. However, first aid is an internationally accepted procedure. This is something that could be done at the scene of the 9/11 attack. Is the same kind of first aid that could be done at Bosnia-Herzegovina, or right here at Ikoyi, where you had the collapsed building. So first aid is first aid worldwide. And the first aid procedure for heart attack says you can give 300 milligrams of aspirin because heart attack is due to a clot and you need to lyse or thin out that clot. So that is specific, please. It's not a blanket reason for anybody to just administer drugs. Now, there are two very basic schools of thought when it comes to first aid. In some cases, some schools of thought will say over-the-counter medication like an antipyretic or analgesic is safe to administer. In another school of thought, they will say no administration of drugs. So it depends on the school of thought that is being pursued according to the policy in your organization. For instance, if your organization has an implant clinic, there is no need for administration of drugs. The casualty can easily be taken to the clinic. So that brings us to your second question. Ladies and gentlemen, it is impossible to make a diagnosis over a webinar like this. The doctors, I'm sure, will agree with me. We don't know the underlying condition of that particular worker. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and it just shows you that not everyone that comes to work hale and hearty is able to return home safely. So this is a wake-up call to all safety officers, particularly to institute what I would call health assessment, frequent health assessment, because you must know your numbers. Knowing your numbers is key. Who is borderline diabetic, borderline hypertension? Some people, they are just walking around not knowing how high their blood pressure is, and in the next 1 or 2 minutes, they could slump. I was once at a hotel, a very popular hotel in Ikeja, where we had screening for distributors of a fast-moving consumer goods company. One of the distributors was checked the venue of that event to bed rest for 1 month, hospital. From the event venue, she was sent for bed rest because they knew that if they would let her go home, she probably would keep on with her high pace of activity. She was a CEO. She could have collapsed at any point. So this is why we must all know our numbers, particularly blood pressure and cholesterol level and your blood sugar level, at least those three, and your BMI. Those are 4 things everybody must know and check from time to time. So Waliu, final question?
Yeah, I think the second question, have you answered it concerning what happened in the workplace?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I've talked about underlying conditions, yes, and being able to do health assessment. You see, most workplaces, they just do a pre-employment check, and that is it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are health officers, you are on this call, that is a no-no. Health assessment has to be continuous. You cannot do pre-employment clinical examination and that's the end. And you have to encourage, if you have a clinic, there's nothing wrong in saying all workers to check their blood pressure once a month. In Unilag, they had 4 or 5 cardiac arrest situations, one after the other. Major General Shino Gubi will bear me out here. In a first generation university, including a former VC, we lost him. And they had to say no blood pressure check, no salary for all lecturers. We had a bursar, we had key officials in that particular first-year university dropping from stress and high blood pressure. So it was really, really sad. So please, we must all know our numbers. Okay, so any other comments or question?
Okay, because of time.
Yes, please.
In addition to what you said, the issue of the worker who died, you spoke about health surveillance. So there should be a periodic surveillance of all workers, at minimum every 6 weeks, every 6 months, you conduct health surveillance. And he also spoke about, it's not because of time, he also spoke about them pouring water on the person. And I think that is should also be a point of concern. But because of time, you've spoken so much, and we can't.
Let me stop you. Yeah, can I just pause you? Please, okay. That is a situation that we find on the streets that we like to correct at such, fora like this. Please, on no account do you pour this bucket of water over someone, aspirate that water, it will go through the nostrils into the lung, into the wrong place. I don't know whether I spoke about drowning. Drowning is when you have the air being displaced by water. And you know that a young child once put her head first into a bucket of water and drowned because on someone who's, who is under this state of unconsciousness. Please, it's a wrong measure that is, usually done on the street, and we want to correct it. Very, very importantly. Thank you. So, Waliu, right. We may be able to round up now. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll round up now. Sorry, just give me a few minutes because anytime I hear about fatality, it usually triggers my attention, and I used to always love to talk about it. So for Nyasaiki, we've done a series of training concerning first aid on this same platform. You can go to our YouTube channel and you can watch videos concerning what to do for victims who collapse and whatnot. I think I've personally done a couple of videos too concerning that too. So to summarize it, based on that fatality, I spoke about an experience that I had, and not me personally. At night I went to the junction bus stop to get something, and I was seeing some people, they were crying. Someone fainted, and based on what Mrs. Fire Williams said, there are so many practices. They were trying to pour water on his leg, on her leg, pour water on her head, trying to give her milk, bring salt, bring this. And we're doing all this. And those things were actually making the situation to be more severe. And I just had to take over because I was, maybe because of my empathy or whatever. I just had to take the boldness, and I told them to give me the woman. They were dragging her with me, our family members. I dragged her away from them, and I laid her down. I laid her down to the side, our recovery position, and raised her leg up. Recovery. And within 3 seconds, I hide open, and just like what Miss Fire Million said, what happened? She screamed, and they were like, it was like a miracle, because we were doing the wrong thing, and that is why this kind of training is very essential. But when you tell people to come, they are always concerned about their data, but they don't know the the value that they get from things like this. So we were able to resuscitate better person. Another thing they were trying to do, you know, when someone faints, they will try to force the person to stand up, try to make our feet lie on the ground. Someone that has lost energy, unconscious, and you are trying to raise him to stand up. Those are wrong practice. So I laid that down, put the correct position, and within seconds, she opened her eye, and I told them that they should allow her to rest and take her to the hospital. So thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate what you've trained us today. We really value what you've given us today. We appreciate your presence, for acknowledging to train us today. Thank you so much. And thanks, a big thanks to to everyone who were present. I can't mention enough. We still have a lot of people.
Most welcome.
We have General Shina Ogunbiyi. We have so many people on the call that I can't keep calling their names. I heard that Mr. Loki was also here. Mr. Oshemogi Christian. Thank you all. We appreciate your presence. And briefly, can you remember that we conduct monthly 3-day technical training. We conducted for this month already, and for the month of October, the 3-day technical safety training will be on for the month of October between 6 to 13. It's always 3 days for physical, 3 days for virtual. If you are interested in this training, it covers accident investigation and risk management techniques. It covers job pattern analysis, the detailed job pattern analysis, and safety data analysis and data presentation with Excel. These are very quality trainings that you will need. If you're interested in this training, you can always chat me up on my WhatsApp number. We appreciate you for coming, for always being present. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I can't thank you well enough. And we call it to the end of today's training. Thank you and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Can we take a picture?
Okay,
can we just have people use their video and take a picture?
Okay.
That would be nice. All right.
Okay.
Let's see everybody.
Let us open our cameras. Please let us open our cameras.
Can we do a countdown? We do a 10, 9, 8, 7,
okay.
6,
let's do that.
5, 4, 3.
Thank you all.
2, 1, 0.
Thank you.
Picture taken.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Ejiro.
Thank you.